Hi, this is Charles Kelly. How you doing? Money Tips. Sorry, a little bit late today. I've been out most of the day in London actually, and I have to say that I've noticed that traffic seems to be getting back to where it was before the lockdown, and it's a lot busier around. But I don't see many people wearing face masks, particularly amongst the younger population. It has to be said. And they seem to be casually walking around, hugging each other, and this sort of stuff. I do wonder if anybody's taken notice of this at all. Of course, the government originally advised that we didn't need face masks, so it's not necessary, even though most countries in Asia that had gone through SARS, did wear face masks. They did test people's temperature at airports, and and they've carried on with that, even some people, and now the scientists are saying that people should wear face masks on public transport, which finally they're getting it. That maybe it does make sense, but it seems that the other countries that had total lockdowns, where they controlled the people coming in from certain countries, have got rid of the disease faster than us, and we didn't do that. But now, from next week, we're introducing a quarantine scheme in at the height of our summer, and just before the summer tourist season. And to me, it's just bonkers. It's shutting the stable door after the horse has bolted. It's too little, too late, and it will just cost tens of thousands of jobs. It will certainly affect millions of jobs if restaurants have to close down or can't open up. And in the meantime, we're paying for a lot of these companies to keep its staff on furlough. This is a taxpayer-funded scheme. In fact, we see that British Airways have actually even refused to meet the Home Secretary next week. They just said, we don't want to meet you. They're just laying off 12,000 people. They've got 30,000 people on the job retention scheme, paid for by the taxpayer. And at the time when we expect things to start opening up, the government have announced a quarantine scheme with no end date in sight, just saying we're going to review it in 3 weeks. Well, that's nonsense. 3 weeks, then you're into July. And even if then they lift it, that's not much use to the companies that have lost bookings for the whole of the summer, because what they're saying is if people arrive in the UK, they've got to give an address before they fly. Then they've got to go to that address and self-isolate for 14 days. And the government will be doing spot checks. Well, what tourist is going to come into the country if you have to self-isolate? And if people are going abroad from here, if someone's flying off with EasyJet or with a holiday package firm to Greece, how are they going to come back and then self-isolate for 2 weeks? It honestly just doesn't make sense. It beggars belief that this policy is coming in. And in fact, 200 business leaders from the tourism and aviation industry have lobbied the government on this, but they're just ignoring it. And I don't know, you've got EasyJet laying off people, Ryanair laying off people, as I said, BA laying off 12,000 staff, Rolls-Royce, I think further 4,000 or 5,000 permanently redundant. And that doesn't include a lot of the pubs and restaurants, which will probably never reopen because they just can't afford to do so. We've heard of chains of restaurants. Frankie and Benny is going to be closed down permanently. And then you reach the summer where we should be coming out of this lockdown. Certainly we were able to, because the reinfection rate is coming down and has come down, and then they're talking about opening up some of the hospitality places in July. But then this quarantine thing is going to kill the business for the summer for the tourism industry. And it's not just airports, it's not just airlines, it's restaurants, hotels, bars, people who rent out smaller places, guest houses, tourist attractions in London and Oxford and Bath and Stratford-on-Avon. They're going to lose out this summer really heavily. They're going to really lose out big time. You could argue that maybe British people might decide to have their holidays in the UK. Yeah, that's true. But that doesn't make up for the maybe 30 million people that come in to the country for tourism reasons during the summer. And you know, if you're around London, the trains are packed with tourists. It's a major part of the city and the city's income and livelihood. And not all, a British person, say, driving into London for the day trip is not the same as somebody coming in on a 2-week holiday and then taking up packages to go around the country. It's just not the same. So I would urge the government to reconsider this. And I think if you're in a business that's going to be affected by this, you should write to your MP and lobby your MP to reverse this decision. Because I really think that they should rethink this and perhaps have a more targeted approach. I mean, in January, millions, not millions, but hundreds of thousands of Chinese people were coming into the country. When we knew about the disease at that time, January, February, they were coming back to university, and nobody checked on them. Nobody checked on all the people coming in from northern Italy. Nobody checked on them. Now we want to put them in quarantine. Well, it's too late. And there's another problem. Another sector said that if you want to open these businesses in July that rely heavily on European labour from Eastern Europe, Spain, Italy, other countries, I'm just generalising here, but if you go into any coffee place, any restaurant, you're not going to find that many British staff. You're going to find Eastern Europe, Europeans, a large amount of Spanish, because Spain have got unemployment problems. Italy's economy is always in the toilet. A lot of Italians living in London. Now, a lot of those people have gone home. And I know from landlords who said they rent rooms out to Europeans. And a couple of months ago, they all left, so walked away and went back to their homeland to sit it out until the end of this period. Now, if you want those to come back in July, how are they going to come back if they're worried about this quarantine business? Because they can't come back now before the quarantine because their job won't be reopening until July when restaurants reopen. And then if they try and come back just before July, they might be stuck with this silly quarantine rule. So that's going to be another sector. How can you open up your restaurants and bars and pubs and hotels if you haven't got the labour in place and the labour's stuck in quarantine or stuck in Italy or Spain because they don't want to get a flight back? That is just ridiculous. So I would urge the government to rethink this because it's a completely nonsensical. I mean, the aviation business alone is worth 22 billion, and that doesn't include the billions of pounds in the hospitality, hotels. I mean, London is a major tourist centre. It's one of the biggest tourist cities in the world, and we just can't shut this down at a time when other countries in Europe are opening up their business. Now, the government has said they might have these, they call them flight bridges, where they'll have deals with countries that are safe and allow special trade, special flights between those two countries. But the other countries who are safe might say, well, the UK is not safe enough for us to do deals with you. So I'm not sure that's going to work. I think all they can do is maybe target certain countries where there are higher risks and stop them coming in and let other businesses just continue. So that's my opinion. In fact, I was having a look at flights today on the EasyJet website, and there are a lot of flights around. I was looking at flights where you can get £75 to Malaga and come back for £35 in July. And a lot of the flights have been sold out, but there are flights available. But if you do that, will you be able to get back? Hopefully they'll end that quarantine plan before the end of June, I hope. But we shall have to see. I know that Michael O'Leary, the chief executive of Ryanair, said most countries in Europe have a lower rate of coronavirus than the UK. He said that the requirement to self-isolate would significantly reduce European visitors. Well, I think it will significantly reduce all visitors from anywhere, apart from the hundreds of migrants who come in every day on a raft across the Channel. Every day, I think it was 160 something migrants turned up on a raft, and they just come in. But they're not deterred. The boss of UK's biggest airport company, Swissport, said the plan will deliver a killer blow to the tourism sector. And this is a time when airlines are cutting back, they've sacked loads of staff, and even the engine maker Rolls-Royce has cut back. Boeing is in trouble. All the airlines are in trouble. So I just think we've got to change that plan. Okay, well, that's enough of my rant for this evening. But if you are affected by this industry, I think you should do something about it and maybe lobby your MP. And if your job is one of the millions that may be affected by these various crises that are going on, then maybe look to build yourself a second income. Try and look for training courses. I put plenty on my blog pages, plenty of courses you can go on to learn how to build an online business, to build a property business, and a lot of free training available there. So do check that out and have a look at my book sometime, Yes, Money Can Buy You Happiness, which you can find on Amazon, packed with tips on money tips, money advice, how to save money, how to earn more money, how to enjoy more money, how to have a better attitude towards money instead of thinking that, well, money is bad, people with money are bad, all the rich are evil, all the businessmen are crooks. And do you know the saying, money is the root of, right, you might be able to finish that, money is the root of all evil? Well, in fact, most people say that, most people think that, but actually it's a misquoted, it's a shortened version of a quote, a biblical quote, where it says, for the love of money is the root of all evil. So, and if you maybe translate that back, they're probably saying the worship of money is the root of all evil. Like don't worship gold and don't worship idols, idolatry, because these things have gone through ancient transcripts to Greek, to English. A lot of them lose their meaning along the way. But the idea that money itself, an inert thing, is evil is wrong. It's what you do with money that can create good or evil. And so a lot of people have that attitude. And if they have that attitude, then why would they want to make money when they think it's evil? Why would they want to become a successful business person when they think you have to be a crook to be in business? I often heard it from my parents. Oh, they're crooks, those business people. They don't pay tax. They rip people off. Well, that's not true. I mean, I know lots of business people that have created tens of thousands of jobs. They give a lot of money to charity. They give back. They help people along the way, and they're providing a good service. And there's another idea that a business person has to take from everybody else, and there's nothing left. In fact, someone wrote to me the other day and said, "Why are you always talking about money? We should stop trying to get more money and leave some for the young people." Yeah, fair enough. I'm not taking away anything from the young people. When let's give you an example. When say Apple started their business, he hasn't taken away anything from young people. He's created a new business, a new type of computer business or a new phone business, and he's created something new, which has then gone on to create tens of thousands of jobs. It's gone on to create massive wealth, massive tax revenues, and it's given people something that they enjoy using. I'm using an iPhone right now. So he didn't have to take away. An entrepreneur creates wealth. They don't take away what's there for everybody else. You could say the same thing about Amazon. I mean, Amazon is creating wealth for millions of small traders who sell their products on Amazon. He's not taking away. I know some retail high street people might say the Amazon's killing their business, but he also created a lot of wealth for millions of small traders that can set up a shop window on Amazon far cheaper than they could by going to set up a shop in the high street. And if you want to know more about how to set up a shop on Amazon, let me know and I'll put you onto some free courses, because if you wanted to start a business today, and it's never been easier to start a business, the last thing you should do is go and open up a shop in the high street and spend £50,000 in your first year, which will probably go down the toilet, and get your business set up online, whether it's Amazon, Shopify or whatever. So these people create something. They don't take away something. They don't need you to be poor so they can be rich. They create wealth that trickles down to everybody. Same with Henry Ford. To go back to an old example, when he started mass producing, he didn't invent the car, but he was one of the inventors of this mass production line of building cars with his Model T Ford. Remember the Model T Ford? You can have it in any colour you like, as long as it's black. It was very a standard car. But by mass producing them, he brought the availability of cars to the masses, and he created a whole industry around cars and Detroit and steel, and he created thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs. Detroit became a magnet for people looking for work, and he set I think he set a minimum rate. Was it $5 a day or $5 an hour, something like? He set a minimum wage rate, which people said was crazy, but in actual fact he made his workers wealthier. They were able to buy more cars, and it really was one of the people that set America off on that golden age. All right, there was the Depression in the way, but that golden age of growth throughout the 20th century, that those great industrialists that, created something from almost nothing. Bill Gates, Microsoft, not everyone's hero, but you have to say when he set up Microsoft, he's given everyone a tool that they can use on the PCs. But he didn't take my money to do that, did he? He's created something, and he's created, hundreds of thousands of millionaires in his business in Microsoft through staff share schemes and all sorts of things. That Silicon Valley is a whole industry that's created billions of dollars of wealth for America, but they didn't have to take that money away from you to make that money. So that's what I talk about. Some of the things I talk about in the book here, and trying to establish what you really want in life, what you want, how to get it, how to manage your money as well. Because most people in the country, from my experience as a financial advisor, don't know how to manage their money, and they don't manage their money very well. So I would say to you, the first step in creating wealth really is to manage what you have, and then to learn about money, to learn how to manage money, to learn how money works, how you can control your money coming in and out, and then go from there to set your targets to what you really want to do and how you're going to get there. But as I talk about that in the book, and even with the flight industry, we talk about these budget airlines, but the airlines like Ryanair, EasyJet, and in Asia you've got Cebu Pacific and is it Jet, AirAsia. They have by setting up those businesses, they've made travel available for the masses. They've made the travel industry grow and expand. They didn't have to take away from other people to do that. Yeah, they may have taken some business off the national carriers that were overcharging us for decades. I mean, when I wanted to originally fly to Ireland with either Aer Lingus or British Airways, I remember in the late 70s, my very first flight was to Ireland. I think I paid £140 in the late 70s. A lot of money. Now you can fly there for 10 quid. You can fly there for £30 with Ryanair. So they brought travel to the masses, and these entrepreneurs like Stelios and Michael O'Leary, they've created, they've become multimillionaires themselves, maybe even billionaires, but they've created wealth. They're true entrepreneurs. They've created something from almost nothing, and they've benefited the public because the people use their product, and it's enabled people to get around all over Europe, and at a fraction of what it used to cost with the old national carriers, and they've even opened up new airports, new routes. You can fly to places that you never used to be able to fly to in France and other countries. Completely new routes that they've opened up. Yes, they're tough business people, but they didn't have to make someone else poor so that they could become rich. Do you see what I'm getting at? Okay, so there you go. Do check out my book, and if you're interested in any courses on how maybe you could help to build yourself a second income or to get online with your business, then just drop me a line, charles@charleskelly.net, or have a look at some of my blog posts on Facebook on Money Tips Daily Community. So thanks everyone. Thanks for tuning in on Facebook Live. Rowena, Myrna, I can't read that. Manasar, Benedict, got it. Jane, hi Jane. Nice to see you again. And Cecile, of course. Yeah, hi. So good night everybody, and have a good evening. Thanks very much for tuning in. I appreciate those comments as well. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.